Hey everybody, welcome to the Art of Divination's weekly podcast. So we have 2 podcasts left tonight for this season. We'll be coming back in September, so we've got a couple changes to the lineup. Tonight we're going to be talking about mythical legends. We're going to delve further into that. And next week, Mystic Mike is going to join us, and we're going to be talking about grounding. And on the 30th, we're going to talk about mythical beasts. We're going to go out with a bang. But we also have another surprise. We were just talking about it this month. We were doing a lot of customer appreciation. The 1-year anniversary is coming up. And we're just so happy in the new location. And we just love the store so much that we decided that next week, on the 30th, the last podcast of this season, whoever picks the right number will get their reading, but also they will win this lovely piece of apophyllite. It is a beautiful cluster, and that is going to be our going away big bang for the end of our season.
Angela Scott says hi, Carrie and Ken.
Hey Angela, how are you?
Mama.
And so, we just wanted to go out and end our podcast with an extra prize. In September, we're coming back with something extra. I'm thinking we should tell people.
Not yet.
No, let them look forward to it over the summer.
But it'd be a cool surprise.
Yeah, well, we've been hinting about it long enough. I think we
True.
should tell people.
Ernie of Coins says hi, guys.
Hey Ernie, how are you? But I think we'll wait and let a few more people log on first, and then we'll tell everybody our big surprise we're coming back with.
Nanny Jackie says hi, everyone.
Hey Mom, how are you? I probably should have said that about the apophyllite later too. So halfway through the show, or
Steve
towards
says
the
hi.
end. Who?
Steve.
Steve.
Hey Steve, that's
Hey.
your.
And
Angela
Steve.
Scott commented it.
So at the end, remind me please at the end about the apophyllite. So the mental health peer-to-peer support group is meeting now, 6 to 8 p.m. every Wednesday. And I'm going to put an appeal out here, Roots for Youth. I went to yoga last week and I'm going again tomorrow, but I was talking to one of the volunteers there and they need food. If you want to buy a bit of extra sales on your grocery orders and drop it off, if you want to buy gift cards for any place that sells food, even if you want to give cash donations. I do know they are looking for that. I think that's it for the announcements. Oh, just, thanking everybody for the liking and sharing. You really, some weeks we've had up to 400 views on these podcasts. I never thought that there would be people joining us week after week. I just didn't realize people would enjoy it as much as they seem to.
I still remember our first podcast.
And how nervous we were.
That was terrifying.
Oh, yeah. And now we've got one whole season behind us, and we're making plans to come back even better next year.
We should do a big mid-season finale next year.
Well, that's what we're doing with the giving away of the apophyllite at the
True.
last show for the season. So, Ken, since you've been so quiet, do you want to tell everybody what our new surprise is coming in September?
Sure, I suppose. What we're going to be working on through the summer. And I think we're actually going to be starting next Thursday.
Yep.
Yeah,
next
we're
week.
going to be starting next week.
We're not airing them. We're
No.
just gathering footage
No.
through the summer.
So they're not going to be live. We're going to be pretty much compiling almost like paranormal documentaries.
We're going ghost hunting.
We'll be coming to go to Facebook.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some in-depth research on locations around Pictou County, and I think are we doing some interviews too?
Yep.
Or-
We're going to try and get firsthand accounts. We're going to get the history behind each haunted spot in Pictou County, and just do a full out. But we're going to do it old school. We're not going to do it with all the gadgets and gadgets because technology and me don't mix. We're going to do it old fashioned with pendulums, hopefully medium, a bunch of sensitive people, and just go ghost hunting. We've got a lot lined up to start researching.
Mhm.
So it's starting in September. Once a month, we're going to download or upload, I don't know. We're going to put one of our ghost hunting episodes on, and then the rest of the month will be podcasts. and that's what we're going to do each month. So we're looking for 9 or 10 ghost stories for next season. So that's our big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
We're so excited about it. We can't wait.
You're getting all kinds of tricks.
I'm wondering if I'm going to pee my pants.
I'll come with you just so you don't feel bad if you do pee your pants.
So you can too? Okay. So yeah, we're going to be ghost hunters. I'm excited about that one.
It's gonna be awesome.
Mm-hmm. So if you know of any spots that you think we should check out, certainly let us know, because right now we're gathering information. Was there anything else? All day long, I feel like I've been forgetting things.
You could mention that Mystic Mike is coming back.
I did. I said that earlier, that he's coming back next week, and we're going to be talking about grounding. And on the 30th, we're going to talk about mythical beasts. And on the 30th, whoever wins the reading is going to get that beautiful piece of apophyllite.
I'm really excited for Mike to come back.
Me too. I love Mike.
That was a really good podcast.
Yeah, and I don't think you've ever met Mike, have you?
No, it was right
No.
before he started that he came in.
Yeah. Oh, Mike's fantastic and so knowledgeable. Just so knowledgeable about everything. He really, really is. You look like you're going to say something, Cole.
No, she got a new tapestry there. Threw me off for a second.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just noticed at the big fair one wasn't hanging there anymore.
Well, that one's blue and spray again.
It does, but I like it. It's elephant mandalas. I love elephants. Elephants are my spirit animals. Elephants and deers are my spirit animals.
I think that's all I know.
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Because we probably are.
Oh, yeah. So pick your number for the free reading at the end of the night. That's one thing I usually say. Did you write that on so people joining us know to pick their number?
You want me to do it in a minute?
Oh my God, you guys are like pros now. You know, I wonder how many podcasts we've done.
A lot. We've done like one every week. I think our first, if it was the beginning of November, I'm pretty sure it was November 9th we did it. Was our first one.
And we took a break between Christmas and New Year's. So, you know, there's 4 to 5 weeks in every month.
Manny Jackie says Picto Landing, and there are people to talk to.
Yeah, I know, Mom. I was thinking about investigating that one too. We used to live there. I don't want to spoil all the spoilers for next season.
Just remind me if I have an idea for the show later on, so I don't forget.
We'll write it down. You don't forget.
I'll text it to you so I don't forget.
Alrighty. Maybe I just talked really fast and covered everything that needed to be covered.
Hello.
So I'm drawing a blank on.
Me too. I think we're getting tired too. It's like you've been with us since March and doing the podcast once a week, and you've got a lot of them in now.
Well, a few, yeah.
Because we even did the podcast during the downtime transitioning stories.
Mm.
And you've got March, April, May.
And he's probably gonna be here doing them in June.
You probably got close to 10 to 12 podcasts in already.
Mm.
We should go back and count them later.
That'd be a joke.
Other- I know there haven't been many that I've been in view of.
Yeah,
but
it's
I
relevant.
I have been behind a few
Yeah,
in terms of.
learning how to run it.
Mm.
I just can't believe it amazes me how fast the time goes by. And I'm absolutely amazed that we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary. We're going to think of something really special for that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal to me. 1 year, it's
Well,
kind of like,
it'll be-
you know, your baby turning 1.
Mm.
So I guess we've covered all of this stuff. And you want to jump in there, Ken?
Sure. The research is sort of kind of impromptu because there's things going on outside beyond the sort of professional scope that affected the researching capabilities.
Stop bagging on yourself. You got some gems in there.
Mm.
But what?
Angela would like to know when is your 1 year anniversary, and Amber would like to say hey, Mom.
Hey, Amber. July 5th is the 1 year anniversary of the store being open, the Art of Divination existing. So it's a pretty special day to me. I'm excited. You've long had a fascination with the myths and legends, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's kind of why these shows are your baby.
Hmm.
Have you always been interested in it?
Yeah, for the most part, I'd say yeah.
Cool. Me too. I'm just not as good at researching as you. Actually, I hate researching. Unless it's in book form. So digging around on the internet.
I just can't retain information very well.
You even found some local ones to our region, like the Maritimes.
Alright, so we'll get started, I suppose. This one I remembered hearing about years ago, but then I started to do more research into it. And it's sort of, well, it's all relative to Bell Island, and that's in Newfoundland or near Newfoundland. And a specific location on Bell Island called Butler's Marsh. And Bell Island's not that, well, it's about 34 kilometers. That's what some sources said there. And it's close to St. John's, but even still, you can only get to it by ferry. They haven't built any bridges or anything like that.
What kind of ferry? The flying kind or the ocean kind?
I think the ocean. But
And Rick said hi, everyone.
Hey Rick, how are you?
And then he was made a joke about it being the day after her birthday.
Yeah, it is the day after my birthday.
Last year, her birthday cake was one next between her birthday and the grand opening for the store.
It was exciting. It was ice cream cake.
I was too cheap to buy 2 cakes.
And I'm lactose intolerant. And she bought me ice cream cake. I ate it though. I like ice cream cake. It's cake.
well, yeah, cake's cake.
Exactly.
I like cake. Anyway, this is Legends 101.
102.
Yeah,
2.0.
there you go.
Yeah.
2.0. But yeah, a lot of the locals say about Bell Island that it's really haunted. Some of the old timers there even say that it's an island where the dead and worse things like to mingle with the living. And I think that's due in part because like the ethnic diversity over there is, you know, pretty much European, but you got like Irish, English, Scottish, German, and a few other things woven in there, and they kind of left their sort of folklore imprint into the culture. But Butler's Marsh specifically, it's like this. It's got a lot of wildflowers peppered with stuff like that, and it's got a bunch of gnarled, almost like the trees themselves are kind of growing nasty like. Mostly pine and cedar. But they believe it's home to a lot of different creatures and stuff like that. Particularly a malevolent type of fairy. And the fairies there have been said to lure people into the marsh, kind of bring them in, and they get lost and, of course, eventually die. They've also been known to, say, bring ailments, harass livestock, abduct children. So oftentimes, parents, to kind of counteract the fairies abducting children, would say if the kids were walking anywhere near the woods or the marsh, they would give them bread as an offering to sort of,
Make the fairies leave them alone.
yeah.
I'll feed you and you don't eat me.
And in more recent times, when Christianity became more of a thing on the island, parents would give their kids verses from the Bible and tuck them into their pocket and send them on their way. Because that was supposed to ward off the fairies as well.
Some of the verses on the Bible have turned me off it.
But anyway,
And I don't mean that bad. Now
No.
I'm thinking about that. It wasn't a very good statement to make. I just mean the way some of the quotes, the verses in the Bible are so derogatory about women. That's my big problem.
But the fairies in Butler Marsh were said to be
Me Jackie said murmurs for Halloween in Newfoundland.
Mummers.
Mummer.
Mummers is people that would dress up and they would go around putting on plays and stuff like that.
They dressed up in like costumes and masks,
Yeah.
and then get invited to the houses, and they're super cool. We did it once in middle school. We went around to all the classes.
Yeah. And I don't think it was just Halloween. I think it was like Christmas, New Year's
Christmas,
too.
yeah.
And it was a big thing waiting for the mummers to come.
Yeah.
They'd be welcomed everywhere. Sorry, Ken.
It's okay.
We're digressing.
But in Butler's Marsh, the fairies there, they said, were like 2 feet tall, kind of, and they were really malevolent, sinister, almost twisted looking. Like, I don't know, I suppose you could say compare it to like goblins or something like that.
Almost like a leprechaun.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Alright, but what I thought was kind of interesting is though they're like malevolent themselves, they sort of created their own, almost both directly and indirectly created another folklore kind of character on Bell Island, which is the Bell Island Hag. And she was sort of almost like a tragic kind of woman in a way, because there's several different variations of the creation myth, but one of the ones that I found was it was a young lady who was relatively new to the island, so she didn't know a lot of the local spots and the lore and stuff behind it, and she got lost in the marsh, and she was lost there for a long time, and she would be screaming to the local villagers to come and help her find her way out. But because of their fear of the fairies, and a few of them even claimed it was a fairy trick, they just sort of left her in there. So eventually she did die from delirium and starvation, stuff like that. But she cursed the locals of the island. Where was I there? So now she's pretty much just a wandering, vengeful spirit within the marsh itself.
So their fear created her.
Yes, pretty much. They created their own monster in a way by being,
Isn't that ironic how we all kind of create our own monster? Even if it's just in our head, like without, beating yourself up.
But anyway, I guess there's so many different variations on her appearance in a lot of ways, and how she even goes after people or lures them in. But one of the common things is she's got almost like a rotted face covered in worms and maggots kind of thing, and she reeks of sulfur. As legend would have it, and this is one thing I thought was interesting, is all of her victims through the legends and sort of myths surrounding the hag were all men. Were all, say, miners taking a shortcut through the marsh, or just hikers or whatever. There was never an account of a woman going missing due to the hag. But one thing, apparently, when the legend goes that she'll lure people in, or they'll somehow stumble upon her. But as she draws closer to you, apparently what's supposed to happen is your vision becomes blurry and gray, and you can't see, everything becomes a haze. And because she reeks of sulfur, the lack of oxygen sort of chokes you out. And you eventually go unconscious, and then that's it. You're never seen or heard from again, kind of thing. And a lot of the people are so still rooted in a lot of those beliefs that even the tourist bureau, now it can be taken as sort of kind of a gag or something like that, but a lot of the people there, like, they welcome visitors and people to come to the community, but they really hold true to the old warnings, like if you go by the woods, bring bread, stuff like that, don't go out in certain areas at certain times,
Cool. At least they're trying to keep visitors safe.
Alright.
So there's a Newfoundland one.
That was kind of cool.
I know for Nova Scotia there's a really sad one. You know the little round house in Bedford Basin?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, well, that's said to be haunted. I think it was Prince Edward. That was his, and he was in love with a married woman or something like that. And I think it's supposed to be haunted by her. Her husband killed her or something like that when he found out she was fooling around. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's a tragic romance gone bad, and the ghost, I'm pretty sure it's of the woman, is supposed to haunt that roundhouse in Bedford
There was
Basin.
another one that I knew of. I read in one of those books Grandy lent me. I believe it was in Peggy's Cove. There was somewhere around there on one of the shorelines. This woman and her husband, can't remember exactly how it goes, but I think it was a woman and her husband and her children were coming over from, I think it was Scotland or England, on one of the boats. Then there was a shipwreck, and her husband and I think it was her husband and her children died in the crash. But she made it over, and she married another man, and he was dancing along the shoreline trying to cheer her up, kind of thing. But he ended up hitting his head off the rocks and passed away too. So there's a supposed haunting there that she can still see her walking along the shoreline, or see her standing by the lighthouse, waiting for her children and her husband to return.
That's so sad.
I think it was she. Apparently, they see her like a blonde hair, brown haired woman in like a blue or white dress, and everyone thinks it's a real woman because it looks exactly like a normal person. But yeah, it's the only Nova Scotia one I know.
Actually, when in September, November, somewhere around there, we should probably try and find more just associated to Atlantic Canada.
I do get a couple books I can bring in and snap open.
Yeah, well, we've got lots of time. We only got 2 podcasts left. So maybe we'll look more closer at the ones associated with Atlantic Canada. They're all fascinating. I just thought, it'd be like maybe Halloween special or something.
That would really be cool.
Yeah. So you've got the Harp of Dagda.
Yes.
I like saying Dagda.
And this one's kind of cool. Sort of, I know it ties into the one we did, the one that was pretty much Celtic themed, the first Myths and Legends one we did, because it sort of goes deeper into the battle or the war that I mentioned a couple of times. But in sort of Celtic tradition, Dagda was the head or leader, if you want to call him that, of the Tuatha De Danann, and he had
Elizabeth Silver says hello.
Hey Liz, how are you?
and he had many magical and powerful possessions, kind of like a cauldron that never ran empty, a club that one end of it, if he hit someone with it, it would kill them. The other side would bring them back to life, which is kind of cool.
We need you to speak up.
Oh, I'm sorry. However, his most treasured possession he had was his harp. I didn't find the pronunciation of that, so I'm just going to wing it. Athani, something like that. But it's made from oak, and it had some really rich sort of decorative designs on it. And he was the only one who could play it. But from it, the music was powerful enough that it could pretty much control your emotions. It could make you laugh, cry, whatever. It was even said to be powerful enough to correct the flow of the seasons. So you could, turn it from winter to summer to, and there's a story about the harp, and it takes place during the war they had when they came to Ireland with the Fomorians, and it was the second battle of the, I remember I had the pronunciation of this, but I'll wing it, Matara, and a few Fomorian warriors heard about his harp, because he would play it during certain battles that he necessarily wasn't on the front lines of, and while playing it, he would play certain melodies when his allies were charging as a way to remove fear and doubt and all that stuff, so that they would be thinking about nothing but honor in combat and bloodlust, essentially. And at the same time, after the battles, he would play songs that would remove the grief and weariness from their hearts and minds, so that they were just focused on, oh yeah, we won kind of thing. They weren't worried about the death or the carnage.
cost.
Uh, so there was a handful of Fomorian warriors, and they schemed to. Well, they thought if they could steal the harp, that would sort of cripple their morale and the resolve when it came to their fighting. So, whilst there was a battle going on and Dagda was in it fighting, they snuck into the Tuatha's fort of sorts and stole it, essentially. And they made off with it, and they returned to their own castle because they were just sort of, they were gloating. Then they weren't going to bother with the battle because they figured at that point in time they didn't have the harp. It would be an easy win, right? They had full confidence in their leader, Balor, who he was this huge giant, so massive, they say, that when he was eventually killed, that when he toppled over, he killed 27 of his own soldiers. But he and his armies had oppressed what would later be known as Ireland. They oppressed it for quite some time before Dagda and Morgan and the whole lot of them came. I think it was even said that they came down from the north, kind of, and just spread around Ireland. But anyway, in that second battle there, they killed Balor. Most of his forces to the left retreated off, and a lot of them were even driven out of Ireland. But the Fomorians who had stolen the harp, they had no idea that their leader was dead. Most of their forces were decimated. They were waiting for the good news that they won. However, they were told when a few survivors returned that Balor was killed by what was his grandson, Lu, which is the god where the Lunasa celebration comes from. However, there was a legend that stated that he started that celebration not to honor himself specifically, but there's a legend about him because Balor had heard of a prophecy where he would eventually be killed by his grandchildren. So anytime he got a grandchild, he would kill it. So his mother, in fearing of Lu being murdered, sent him off to live in secret. So the celebration initially was about Lu honoring his adoptive mother. But yeah, he ended up at that battle killing Balor. He shot him. Balor he was almost kind of like a Cyclops, I suppose, because he had this huge evil eye that was said to, like, if he stared at you, it would kill you, essentially. But Lu shot through it with a slingshot, almost not doing like David and Goliath, But yeah, he shot through him, killed him, and where did I lost my spot. He killed him, and of course, the Tuatha De Danann went about their way. They went back to their own fort, and when they got there, they said to the Dagda, "Why don't you play us a song, right? Like, we won, we want some music, right?" So he went to go get it, but he found that it was gone, and he was pretty steamed about that. So he Agma and Lou went out to find it. They eventually traced it, or they tracked a few of the Fomorians because they figured they'd be the likely candidates. So they tracked them back to their fort, and when they got in there, they saw it on the other side of the fortress, kind of like the big what you call it, keep. But all the Fomorians that were sort of battle weary, there were still about a few hundred of them. They were asleep. Dagda figured it would be best to get it and not have to fight a few hundred of them, right? So he called out to it, and it flew to him. But with the motion of it flying over, a lot of the Fomorians woke up, and they were not too pleased. But so he picked up his harp and he started to play it. And at first he played the melody of mirth, so that they would, despite like they tried not to laugh, but they couldn't help it. So they were laughing so hard that they couldn't hold their swords. Then he played the melody of grief, and they all became overwhelmed with sorrow and pain, so they were just weeping. And then he finally played a melody of slumber. So essentially, one by one, they were just passing out and dropping. So the three of them essentially just walked away. They didn't have to fight.
That's pretty cool. So this next one kind of sounds German.
Yeah. It's, I found like the first part is German, but the second, well, the alternate version, I think, is like Bavarian in a way, but it's still pretty much the same. It's all about the same mountain range.
The fairy tales that we have now, they're not the original version. And the original versions of the fairy tales, they were really dark. They were warnings because people were afraid of so many things, especially things they didn't understand, right? So this is kind of like, excuse me, those fairy tales. Do you know what I mean? And it would be something to read the original, like Hans Christian Andersen before Disney, PC'd it and made it not so frightening. But that's what they were. They were all warnings.
Brothers Grimm's version.
Yeah, but they were warnings for a time when people didn't necessarily understand everything around them.
All right, and this one's the Mountain of King. I want to say Watsman.
That's how I pronounce it.
I'm not too fluent in German, but its story is like a few thousand years ago in the region of Berchtesgaden.
That's all I'm going to say. Good luck.
There was a really cruel and evil king, and he was feared and hated by the people in his kingdom. In this version, the German version, because he would make his serfs drag their own plows. He wouldn't allow them to use any sort of animals or anything like that. He would chain them to plows and force them to do that until they would eventually die of exhaustion and stuff. But they would, day after day, they would pull their own plows, and if one was tired or collapsed or whatever, he would punish them because he would see that as an offense. So he would set his dogs out to punish them. Until one day there was a farmer named Hoyce, I want to say, collapsed because he had gone without food for 3 whole days. And as he was on the ground, this little tiny man signaled to him to keep quiet, and he climbed into House's pocket. And he stayed there until finally, at the end of the day, House ran home, and the tiny man climbed out of his pocket and said, "My name is Heindel, and I have come to help you avenge the evils your king inflicted on you and your people. So basically, House was instructed by Heinzel to gather up, his friends, his family, all the farmers in the community, and they listened to his plan on how to get revenge. Uh, Heinzel told the farmers to gather pebbles so as to ward off the king's hounds. And at first, the farmers were suspicious, but they did what he told them to do. And early the next morning, the farmers went to work, and they had jammed their pockets full of pebbles. Uh, and after a few hours of work, a farmer collapsed. But as the hounds charged at him, he managed to grab a hold of a pebble in his pocket, and almost in an instant, the hound dropped dead. And after the hound dropped dead, the farmers began to pelt the king with pebbles. Soon enough, the king was dead, lying under a mountain of pebbles. And uh, that was pretty much the formation of the mountain Watchman, because he was King Watchman, I suppose. But there's this other variation. I kind of like it a bit more. And I seen like images while I was researching it, like old Bavarian postcards where they had a picture of the mountain ranges, but they had like faces and figures drawn in them as if it was like how it ended in the tale here, which is the king and his family would hunt the peasants, and one day they slaughtered an entire family. The remainder of the village cursed him, and his family, cursed him to stone, and they are believed to be entombed in the seven peaks because they were the king, the queen, and they had 5 children. Uh, the seven peaks of the mountain is supposed to be where they're entombed.
That's pretty cool. That really is pretty cool. So if you have any questions or comments, we totally welcome them. We want it to be more of a discussion than anything else. And don't forget to keep guessing your numbers for that reading.
Sue drawn that one.
Hey Sue, how are you?
I just noticed that one.
This next one, though, it's not necessarily ancient, although it's a vengeful spirit of sorts. And well, there's nothing new about vengeful spirits, but this one's relatively new in the scope of the other ones, kind of.
The other ones were kind of explaining how the land was formed.
But this one's about a vengeful spirit. It's a Japanese vengeful spirit. Where was I? Oh yeah, right here. And in Japan, I think I know I'm gonna get this wrong, but they refer to vengeful spirits as onryo, and they've been generating myths and legends about vengeful spirits since way back in the 8th century.
There's one about a Japanese spirit that lives in alcohol.
Mm.
And you can control the spirit to kind of like slay your enemies through alcohol. I watch a lot of Supernatural.
But this one, I think it's pronounced Teki Teki. And it's about this. There's different variations on how it started. I mentioned 2 here. And one is about this schoolgirl who fell onto train tracks and was cut in half by an oncoming train. Her spirit is just a crawling torso. And where they get the name Teki Teki is when her nails are scraping on the ground. That's where it comes from. And while one hand is sort of pulling the torso along, the other hand is said to be carrying a scythe. And anybody, according to the legend, who's seen her, she is supposed to, she's known to lure you in by sort of hiding in things or places that disguise the lack of lower body, right? So you think, oh, it's just, a normal person you can talk to or whatever. But when you get, say, close enough, she'll kill you or cut you in half kind of thing. And as the legend goes, it's impossible to outrun her because though she's, got no legs and she's crawling on her hands, she's
Still spirit.
Yeah, she can pretty much chase you down. So the key is to sort of outsmart her, because as some have said that when she meets you, she'll ask, "Where are my legs?" kind of thing. Uh, I found the most frequent thing is they say the answer I don't know, or I can't help you, or stuff like that. That will result in you being killed. The only correct answer is the Mission Line or Mission Expressway, and there's usually when it comes to that version of the spirit, that pretty much sets it on its way. It will go out and begin searching for its legs. There's another variation of that legend where it said that a beautiful young woman was assaulted by a group of men. She dragged her battered body to, at that time, the most crowded area, which was a train station. And unfortunately, before anyone could help her, she had collapsed onto train tracks and then was cut in half. This version, though, has like an actual name. Kashima Riko is its name. And like the other version, she'll again ask for her legs, and the answer is the Mission Line. But some people have said that she won't stop with that. She'll keep asking, "How do you know? Who told you?" Stuff like that. And when she asks who told you, you're supposed to say uh, Kashima Riko. And then she'll ask, "Do you know my name?" And of course, that's her name, but that's not the answer. It's sort of a trick question because if you answer that, then, or with that, the legend goes that she'll kill you. The real, or the answer that you should give is masked death demon, because it's sort of the true meaning of her name when you break it down. Uh, as far as I know, Ka means mask, she means death, and Ma means demon. And when you answer that, she'll uh, spare you and go back to where she came from. And apparently, uh, she's been known to appear in train station bathrooms, school bathrooms, and even some people have said that she will even crawl into people's homes and get them when they least expect it.
Well, I'm never going to the bathroom in Japan. I'll be peeing on the side of the road. So the next one's a little bit closer to home down south, though.
Mm-hmm. It's the Jersey Devil, and it's sort of incomplete, I suppose. I got the bulk of the legend. I just couldn't find too much in the way of actual stories. But in the woods of Pine Barren in the south of New Jersey, there's this creature called the Jersey Devil, and its head is supposed to resemble a horse, and the hind legs are supposed to be like goat legs. And now this is where, like, I saw it was sometime in the 1700s or something like that, or just general 18th century. There was a woman, couldn't find her name, but she's known as Mother Leeds. She is said to be married to Daniel Leeds, however, but she gave birth to her 13th child. That's a lot. um, but there's like several conflicting forms of the story. Some say that it was because the witch cursed the family, or that Mother Leeds herself was a dark witch and stuff like that. The outcome is the same. The child's born normally, sort of, and then it starts to almost immediately shapeshift. It grows wings and hooves, and it started like there was neighbors in the area heard shrieking, and it even killed one of the midwives, I think, on its just before it took off and left. Apart from that, there wasn't too much information. However, there was a newspaper article done around that point in time about Mother Lee's demon baby, right? And it's supposed to be said to still roam the woods in the area. And apparently, the legend goes it kills any animals that it comes in contact with, and there have been tons of urban legends about people's dogs going missing in the woods, and or cats or whatever, and even like hikers and stuff like that. In 1909, though, there was, I guess you could say, one of the more tangible cases where a lot of the locals around that area saw sightings, or they would see tracks, or even a lot of dead animals would appear out by the woods, and they'd have weird claw marks and stuff in them. So at first, from what I read, the villagers or the people, the locals, sort of created a mob kind of thing, and they were going to go out and see what was going on. They found early on, because it was in the middle of January, so there was fresh snow tracks. The bloodhounds refused to follow the tracks. They wouldn't sniff. They wanted to stay as far away from it as possible. And with all the sightings and stuff like that, a lot of the mills had to shut down because people were afraid to go to work. They refused to go into the woods. And that's
scary.
Yeah.
Scary one. But I think it's coming close to the end of our hour.
Yeah, it's about 10 to.
So,
Or 12 to, anyway.
thank you, Ken. It was really fascinating. A lot of great stories there. And so, like we said, next week, Mystic Mike will be with us talking about grounding, give you a bit of a break. And after that, it's Mystical Beasts. So for that one, since it's our last one of the season, and that's what we're going to call it because we're grown-ups now, we will be giving away the reading. But as a thank you to everybody for following along with all of these, we're also going to give away this apophyllite. Apophyllite is a wonderful stone, so that will be an important one to guess your number with. So, Ashley, you picked the number tonight. What number did you pick?
I picked 21.
21.
Rick won it again.
Yep, closest without going over. Rick going with 17.
So, Rick, it looks like you won it and you get yourself a reading tonight. Let's see what the cards have to say for you.
I does right.
It does right. So, let's see. Rick, you have the Queen of Pentacles. You have the Queen of Swords. The Nine of Wands in reverse. And the Five of Swords. This 5 has been popping up all week long. So there's something going on there. So Rick, there's 2 women in your life that have significance. And I feel like they're in opposition. So maybe there's some balancing that needs to be done there. Maybe better communication. I just feel like there's opposition between these 2 women. You'll know more how that affects you than I do, but I just feel like you're constantly weighing actions on words. So just, keep walking carefully, and they will resolve this. It's not for you to resolve. They will resolve it on their own. So I know that's not a great deal of help. So the Nine of Pentacles, or Wands, sorry. That means misery behind you. But in reverse, that's going to be a little bit slower in happening. I really feel you're stuck between these 2 women because all these cards indicate it. Like the misery behind you, the 5 of Swords equals it means quarrels and violence. So the short and sweet of it, it's a thirst to work out. Don't get caught up in it. Um, don't take sides. You know what I mean? Don't feel pulled one way or another. Tell them you're Switzerland. Just be neutral, because sometimes we can't fix everything, and we can only take ourselves out of the equation when the problem seems to be centered around us but is not our actual problem. For a reading, this one's like really direct and specific, and also very short, because that's all I can say is take yourself out of the equation. People will resolve it on their own, and it is theirs to resolve, not yours.
I'm sorry, I had to chuckle a bit when you said be Switzerland, because when me and my brother were younger, we'd get into huge fights and we'd like really fight bad. Like, and we'd, be hitting each other and whatever. And my mom would just say, I'm Switzerland, I'm not getting involved.
Well, that's you, Rick. Be Switzerland.
That's what Kyle used to say too.
Yeah, be neutral, because it is theirs to resolve, not yours. And it's very direct, but kind of uninformative. I can't go into a lot of detail for you because I'm not getting a lot of detail. Just the big thing is, take yourself out of the equation. Let them resolve it for themselves. So I hope that helps. I know I'm off today. I think I'm just kind of burning out a little bit.
Everyone's off too.
Or maybe it has to do with that big shift of Uranus going into Taurus. I don't know if anybody else is feeling it, but I'm just feeling off.
I am too.
Yeah. So, I hope this helps, Rick. But for now, we're going to knock off a few minutes early. And I just want to say thank you for supporting us with the podcast, the daily readings, the Facebook page, the store. Thank you for sharing everything. And thank you for making this so much fun for us. It's been quite an adventure. And I remember Ken in the interview process, he's like, well, I'm not really comfortable with camera. And I was like, that's fine. You can be behind the
In
camera.
the first couple of podcasts.
And now look at him running the show, researching it.
Shouldn't know, we can let him run the show by himself.
Yeah.
Have a thumbs up beside him in the comments.
Yeah. So just thank you for everything, everybody. Don't forget Friday, we're going to have our customer appreciation again. Buy one, get one, half off, crystals and incense. And we'll be back next week with Mystic Mike, but we'll still be on again tomorrow with
Daily reading.
the daily reading. And I hope everybody's proud of me, because not once did I say Magic Mike. So I wish you all love and light and a good evening, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.
See ya.